The Rams are flying to Pennsylvania to meet with this top edge rusher that they could pick in the first round. That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, and we're trying to get to 13,000 subscribers before the draft. So do us a huge favor. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit that like button, and let us know, should the Rams draft Chop Robinson in the first round? My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've been covering LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 Sports, Dodgers Nation. And today, of course, as always, I'm joined by the Rams pre-half and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He's entered his 9th season covering your Los Angeles Rams, the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's show, Ernest Jones did an AMA on Reddit. We got the best of that. And the top 5 picks in the Les Snead era. Got some honorable mentions, too. And we're going to also talk about a rumor about a player, an edge rush that the Rams are meeting with today. That's coming up. But first, this episode of Locked On Rams is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free on the Apple Store or Google Play app. So definitely get that Monopoly Go going. Big Monopoly guy here, so definitely can't wait to check that out. But I mean to download that. But Travis, we got a rumor. They're starting to swirl a little bit. The draft is inching closer and closer. And NFL insider Jordan Schultz reported sources. The Rams are flying to Happy Valley today for a private visit with Penn State pass rusher and projected first-rounder Chop Robinson. So for this one, is it a smokescreen? Are they just doing their due diligence? That remains to be seen. But clearly they're interested in Chop Robinson.
I want to get to Chop Robinson because I think you're onto it. I like the smoke screen thing. We're going to talk about that in a second, but I'm going to need you give me 10 seconds as your Dodgers Nation hat. Put that back on. The Dodgers are going to be fine, right? We're good.
Yeah, I mean, look, at this point, you got to hope for. You just have to blow it all up and hope for a quick rebuild. You know what I mean? You just got to hope.
Look, they've played 21 games. They're only 3 games over 5. I'm getting a little nervous. Anyway, we can do Dodgers Nation, Locked On Dodgers, but I need somebody in my Dodger life to tell me that things
are going to be fine. It's only April, and then I'm going to be saying it's only May, and I'm going to be saying it's only June. It's only October.
Good. That's all I needed to hear. Very good. Chop Robinson. I think, one of my favorite phrases is that 2 things can be true at the same time. It could be a smokescreen, and they could be talking to him because they're interested in him. Both things could be true at the same time. I think it was Mel Kiper that said this originally, talking about draft season, that, draft season is one name for it, and we're getting really close to it. We're a week away from it. Another name for it is lying season. Now, that everybody wants to throw the other 31 teams off the scent, that this is their guy. So the last thing they can let everybody know that this is their guy. Unless you're picking number 1, you have to be a little bit cagey about what you might do. That being said, if you're sending a contingent of people out to go meet with a player, that's a hell of a smokescreen. That's a really big swing to try to throw somebody off. He's a talented guy. It's a position of need. It's something that I think that the Rams would be interested in doing at that position with that particular player. But I just have a really hard time assigning too much value to any of this stuff this close to the draft, because I think everybody's trying to mislead everybody else.
I agree. Like you said, it's lying season, but also, like you also said, this is a position of need that the Rams need to fill at some point. And really not that many options on the trade market. You didn't pick one up during free agency, didn't get any of those premier guys. And yes, Aaron Donald has retired, so do you want to kind of think more long-term and bring in a raw player and trust your player development? Because Chop Robinson, that really is the rub on him, is that the high ceiling is absolutely there. The raw ability is absolutely there. I mean, this is someone who had a 40-yard dash of 4.49. That was the fastest of any defensive end at the NFL Combine. Having watched more tape on him yesterday, this is a very dynamic player in the pass rushing department. He's got that elite burst. He's got that freakish athleticism. And those are the type of guys that turn into multi-time All-Pros. So I think the upside is absolutely there with Chop Robinson. Like I said, there are some doubts against the stopping the run, but if you had to pick between stopping the run and a guy that can get to the quarterback, you definitely take the getting to the quarterback. So if the Rams are interested, they like it. I love it. And I absolutely would be more than okay with this pick if they truly believe he has that upside and that they can develop him into the player that they hope he can be. Maybe in year one, he doesn't come out of the gates and become a all-pro in year one, but maybe long-term, this could be the guy that has the highest upside, ends up being one of the better players in this draft if everything breaks right. He has a lot of elite raw traits, and the only issue with him is the production just hasn't been consistently there as far as kind of the counting stats. I mean, 9.5 sacks, 17.5 tackles for the last 20 tackles for loss in the last 22 games. So the production is not crazy high, but like I said, the flashes have been high. A 20.8 pass rush win rate, that was top 10. So he's got that burst. He's got that freakish athleticism. And I think that's what the Rams want to focus on. They say, you know what? Give us the high upside. We'll focus on the player development versus give me the guy that has a lot of polish and refined moves and a college production. Say that is what he is. I think they want less of a plug-and-play guy versus someone that, okay, we just want the best NFL player in the next 3-4 years from now.
So I think what you're, describing is Robinson is the, we might get something now, but it's a pretty good bet we're going to get a lot of good later versus a player like Leatu Latu, who's whatever we get, we're probably going to get right away, but that's probably what we're going to get. That's just kind of, the difference between a Honda Accord where, it's going to be what it's going to be. There are no surprises. This is, it's going to run forever. You're not going to have to fix it. And, all you have to do, brakes and tires. But it's not a Maserati, right? It's a Honda Accord. It's pretty reliable. It's pretty good. But if you've got, something that, that thing right there, if I can keep that, if I can get that fixed up, if I can do this, that's more of the Robinson thing. I think what we're talking about here is, where are they in their window? Because I don't know if you have time for development if your window is now. What is their window? Their window is Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay. But probably, in the short term, far more about Matthew Stafford than anything else. You don't have time to let something cook while your quarterback is in his mid to late 30s. You got to go get it right now. So I think that's a part of the equation as well. Now, if they think their defense is going to be pretty good, I'm in a wait and see mode there. Then maybe you do have the luxury of kind of saying, let's take a little bit of a development tact here. But if you think that you got to have somebody that can get some stops occasionally, pressure on the quarterback, interceptions, whatever you need on that side of the ball, because your offense is going to be pretty good and you think you got a chance to go win playoff games and beyond, then I don't know if you have time to wait around for a project. I think what they do with that pick is going to tell you a lot about where they think they are in the NFC.
I 100% agree. And another thing with Chop Robinson, there's a lot of talk about his arm length and kind of that being one of his cons, is kind of getting pushed off of blockers and his inability to really make plays of the run game during certain stretches. So offensive linemen, they only get better in the NFL, right? So you're going to have to learn some moves very quickly to be effective. But I do think he's a very intriguing talent. I just want to point that out. I mean, last season, Byron Young, he was someone that was kind of viewed in the same light, and that very raw, very athletic, but not a long track record. And look at the year he had. So excellent. I do think there's a world where everything just kind of clicks and turns on around NFL coaching and NFL development. And then you say, oh, what? This guy's ceiling is extremely high. So I want Pro Bowl talents in my first round picks, right? So I do kind of like the idea, but I think you made the best point that give me the plug and play player for 2024. Okay. Yeah. Which player can help this team win this season? Whoever you think that is who you should go out and pick, in my opinion.
Yeah, the big swing, I'm with you if you're a team that's pretty far away from trying to compete at the highest level. I don't think the Rams are far away. I think they're pretty close. And I think that the difference in winning a playoff game, maybe a couple of playoff games, maybe more than that, is going to be incremental. I don't think it's going to be all of a sudden, hey, we drafted this guy that turned into a monster 3 years later that no one can block and he's in the backfield over and over again. That's cool. Matthew Stafford's going to be at home with his feet up watching golf on TV. Now, and who's your quarterback? So, now what? So you got to think about all these factors when you're making that pick. I'm more of a let's put a Honda Accord in the fleet and be really, really good and get a little bit better and hope that that's good enough to get us over the top now. Last year, I think you take swings because I don't think that anybody thought they were going to be close. Last year, I think you say, look, 2 years from now, that guy may be awesome. I think that's what Turner was. I think that's what Young was. I don't know if you do that right now.
I agree 100%. But anyways, chopped him his prime. If he's a Ram, hey, let's do it. But coming up in our next segment, the top 5 picks of the Les Snead era. That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
You heard D-Mac talking about Monopoly Go, right? Love it. Got to put it on your phone. You're going to have a great time because think about this, right? Think about you're watching a game. It's halftime and the scoreboard, you're like, it's not looking so good. So you're not sure how you or your team can pull out a win. And then you dig deep, you lift your head up and you say to yourself, it's time to get back in the game. Pull off a little bit of a heist and take as much as your friend's money as you possibly can. That's what you could do with Monopoly Go. It lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. Who doesn't want the biggest empire? I do. D-Mac does. It's the Monopoly you love, but it's on your phone anytime with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to all of your buddies. There's a ton of things you can do. You can play on countless different dynamic Monopoly boards. You and your friends can bankrupt each other by smashing landmarks with a wrecking ball. You can charge other players rent for those iconic properties. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb up that leaderboard. It is a ton of fun. So get back out there, put your game face on, and download Monopoly Go right now for free in the App Store or Google Play.
And we are off and running here on Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available, Rev Gear Podcast. Locked On Rams, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And also a special shout out to those everyday listeners out there. We appreciate you watching and listening to every single episode of Locked On Rams. And you can become an everyday listener too. Membership is 100% free, and you won't miss a thing about your Los Angeles Rams. Now, Travis, here in our second segment, we're just going to kind of look back and talk about the top 5 picks of the Les Snead era. I do have one honorable mention, and that is right tackle Rob Havenstein. He was taken 57th pick in the second round there in 2015. How about this? Playing 130 games. He started in every single one of those 130 games. He's entering the 10th year of his career. Not a big Pro Bowl guy, not a big All-Pro guy, but you give me 10 years of a starting right tackle, and you hit big on that pick. 57th pick in the 2015 draft.
Look, in a perfect world, you're hoping that you draft Orlando Pace or Jonathan Ogden or Anthony Munoz, right? That's what the dream scenario is. Andrew Whitworth, right? The second best scenario is exactly what you just said. A guy that you put in a place that's there every single day at an incredibly important position, plays it at a very high level, is a pro's pro, is incredibly competent. You don't have to worry about him. Maybe he's not making the Pro Bowl every year, but he's going to play in 16 or 17 games every year. He's good. He's a good leader, all those things. It was a fantastic pick. And put it to you this way, I think the ultimate thing is if you could have a do-over, would you pick anybody else? And I think the answer is absolutely not.
100%. I mean, give me solid offensive line play. Absolutely. Give me guys that stay on the field and are reliable. Yep. I mean, yeah, he was definitely a big hit for Les Snead. And then getting into our top 5, we talked about him yesterday. Got to go with Jared Goff. Bold move by Snead. Trade 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, a day 3 pick. And look at his first season as a Ram. He definitely was with Fisher. You definitely were kind of worried. Is this guy going to be a bust? They failed to get anything going. And then the best thing that ever happened to Jared Goff was Sean McVay. And with Sean McVay, you win 2 NFC West titles, an NFC championship. You made the playoffs 3 times in 4 years, and he was the starter through all of that. And the numbers were there. He was averaging over 4,000 passing yards a season. And then, of course, he helped get the Rams Matthew Stafford, and they ended up winning a Super Bowl.
Jared Goff has been vindicated as a not just a good pick, but a great pick because of all the things that you said. First of all, 0-7 when they install him as the starter his rookie season. Jeff Fisher is responsible for that. Sean McVay shows up and instantly he becomes a pretty darn good quarterback. But it was one of those, is this a Sean McVay thing or is this a Jared Goff thing? Did he get better or is McVay that good? I think it was both. But when he left and he went to Detroit and you saw him continue to improve, continue to lead his team. They went to an NFC championship game again. He's a two-time NFC championship game quarterback. He's a Super Bowl starting quarterback. It's hard to argue that he's anything other than a really, really good player. And here's the other thing I'll say about him. And I would imagine the people in Detroit would say exactly the same thing. Dude is tough as nails. That guy took some shots. He never, ever felt like he had happy feet in the pocket to the point of, dude, you got to get down. You got to get rid of that ball. You got to be a little bit more cautious. I'm a Jared Goff fan. I'm a Jared Goff fan while he was here. I'm glad it's worked out for him in Detroit. I'm glad they made the trade to bring Matthew Stafford in because it resulted in a Super Bowl. But, to take a big swing, to move up from where they were like 15, 16, something like that, all the way to number one to get it done and to have that kind of career, great pick.
And he was a two-time Pro Bowler with the Rams, and I think that you said it best as far as the pick looks even better now, even though he's not even on the Rams because of the success he's had with the Detroit Lions. And when I see Jared Goff, the first thing I think of is Matthew Stafford. I think of a Super Bowl trophy, and that's what it really comes down to me. And then coming in at number 3, this might have been a little high for some people because it's only been 1 year, but I'm already ready. Puka Nacua, the 177th overall pick. They picked him up in the 5th round. And I mean, come on, year one, he's to the NFL record for most catches, most receiving yards by a rookie. He is really the biggest reason outside of Matthew Stafford why they were able to make the playoffs last season and surprise the NFL and have a 10-win year. I mean, we're talking about Torrey Holt level production, but even better as far as a Rams rookie receiver. So Puka Nacua, if he goes on a run here where he really is that guy where he's putting up Pro Bowl, all pro level numbers for 5 to 10 years in the NFL, there's no doubt about it. This is one of Les Snead's best picks, not just because how good of a player he is, but where they selected him.
I was just going to say, I think if you're just doing bang for the buck, he's number one, right? That a 5th round pick that is setting NFL records as a rookie, you're not going to do much better than that. Now, I think there's a huge asterisk next to his name, which is show me again, right? That we've seen it before. We've seen guys that come in that are awesome that never really are that awesome all over again. I'm very optimistic that he's going to be good. I'm very optimistic that he's going to turn into something that isn't just a, hey, remember that guy that had the unusual name? What was his name again? He's not going to be that. He's going to be an impactful player for a while. So I'm optimistic. Bang for the buck. He's at the top of the list. Here's something else that I don't know if you can quantify it necessarily, but I think it adds to what we're talking about, D-Mac, and making him an even more compelling, Les Snead draft pick. He's a star. He's not just a good player. He's not just a guy that catches balls and gets in the end zone. Like, people love him. People respond to him. He's showing up at the NBA All-Star Weekend dunking. He's funny. He's got a look that's very identifiable. Like, there's a certain star quality to him that, quite frankly, Cooper Kupp does not have. Cooper Kupp's a better player than Puka Nacua is, but Cooper Kupp is a little serious. He's not super embraceable. He's a great player, but it's not that, oh, I love this guy. It's that guy's awesome. Puka has I love this guy quality to him that you can't teach, that you just kind of have or don't have. He's got it, and I think it elevates him even more.
Yeah, I mean, there with Puka, he just won over the fan base so quickly.
Absolutely.
There was a mystique to him, a lovability to him. He's always laughing. He's always smiling. He's got that magnetism to him, right? That infectious energy. And he's a jersey guy. He's a guy that you say, I want his jersey. And I can own all the Rams jerseys. He's the one I want to add to my collection this year, right? That's how fans view Puka Nacua. So yeah, there definitely is that. I mean, it was Puka mania. I mean, it really was the closest thing to a Puka mania in year one. But like you said, I mean, I think for NFL players, that first year, it's okay. The dream is realized, right? The boyhood dream is realized. I dreamed of being in the NFL my whole life. The second stage of that is just truly prove you belong, right? And you get the best rookie year in history, but you still are in that stage of, look, if we're 5 games into the season, next season, and he's putting up those numbers, I'm like, okay, it's over.
Oh, yeah.
He's proved he belonged, right? But we do still need to see it.
Look, once happens, twice is not an accident. Twice is you're that sort of guy along the way. I want to just tell a quick story that going back to the beginning of last season, they opened the season up in Seattle, and he has that big name. And it was like, who is this guy? Wow. Like all the hype, I guess, is kind of true. Sean McVay was onto something, all this stuff. Come to week 2 at SoFi Stadium. Again, Puka Nacua's played 1 game for the Rams at this point. They're introducing the starting lineup, number 17, wide receiver, Puka Nacua. And all of a sudden, Puka from the whole play. I'm like, in a game? Like he instantly captured everybody's imagination. People weren't going, Kyren. That wasn't happening, right? It took them a minute to kind of get on board with that. But Puka grabbed people right out of the chute, and good on him.
He's built for social media too, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, he's built for reels, and Rams reels is coming off the field saying, let's go, and spiking the ball. So he does have all those little things. I know that technically they don't matter and they shouldn't matter, but they do matter, right? When it comes to just endearing yourself to a fan base. So look, I want to say too, he's looking leaner, he's looking meaner, he's got the beard happening there. So I definitely, people talk, his break tackle abilities, is he still going to have that? No, look, I think Puka Nacua, he's a strong dude. I think that I'm a big believer. I think year 2 he's going to prove once again that this is one of the better receivers in the NFL. And then coming in, we're going to break it down too. We got Todd Gurley coming next. Now, Todd Gurley, the Todd father. I mean, this is someone who I remember, Travis, there was a time when we were saying, is he going to catch Emmitt Smith? Right? We're talking about just these lofty records, truly going down as a GOAT. He rushed for 5,404 yards in 5 years with the Rams. Unfortunately, they can be mean sometimes. They can be cruel sometimes. I'm talking about those football gods that really kind of robbed him of a Hall of Fame career.
Well, look, I think that the best way to make the case for Todd Gurley is there was a 2-year window where you could say with a straight face that Todd Gurley was the best player in the league and no one was going to laugh at you. That Todd Gurley was an MVP candidate. And Todd Gurley, hey, you got the first pick. Who do you want? I want Todd Gurley. No one's going to go, what he is, crazy? It was like, yeah, okay. That's how good he was, that he was not just a good player. He was not just an all-pro. He was not just a guy that was a fantasy monster. He was the answer to the question, who's the best player in the league? He at least was one of the first 5 or 6 names out of your mouth, and it wasn't crazy. That's even if it was short, and it just didn't last very long. I would have loved to have seen what he might have been able to do had he not had to burn a couple of miles off his tires in that ridiculous Jeff Fisher offense and been with an innovative modern mind like Sean McVay for a little bit longer. But Todd Gurley was a phenomenal player.
He was so good. I mean, like you said, there was a point where, this guy really was right at the top in the NFL. He really should have led this team to a Super Bowl. Unfortunately, he was compromised. I texted my friend who's a big Rams fan just about Todd Gurley, and he texted me back. He says, I miss him every day, and sent a blue heart emoji. I'm like, that's a little dramatic, bro. But it just goes to show, he just gained that feeling, right? Was that?
He's still alive.
That's what I said like that back.
He's just not playing football. It happens.
He was like, it's such a tragedy, such a football tragedy. I'm like, homie made $49 million. Hopefully he didn't squander it. Like he'll be all right.
He's okay.
So that's 5 through 3 on our top 5. We have our top 2 to go for the Les Snead best draft picks of all time. That's coming up next here on Locked On Rams.
All right, little reminder that Yahoo Finance is a sponsor of Locked On Rams, and we could not exist without the help of sponsors just like Yahoo Finance. Let me ask you a question. Wouldn't it be great if you could track all of your investments in one spot, all your retirement accounts? If you're anything like me, you've got a little bit of money in a lot of different places. Maybe you have one at work. Maybe you have one privately, right? Maybe you've got a Schwab. You've got a 401k all over the place. How about one place that's super easy to manage them? Because let's just get right to it, right? You want to grow your portfolio to deal with the rising costs of, everything basically, right? Inflation, pay off your debt. Maybe you got student loans. You've got mortgage, pretty much anything standing in the way between you and financial freedom. And with Yahoo Finance, you can get access to the news, data, and tools that you need in order to help you reach that level of financial freedom. And for more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Number one finance destination, producing a holistic look at the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and really so much more. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com, the number one financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com.
Top two, of course, Cooper Kupp, 69th overall pick in 2017. First player since 2005 to win that Triple Crown. Of course, the 2021 season, 145 catches, 1,947 yards, 16 tutties. And he's just really one of the core members of this era of Rams football. They would not have won a Super Bowl without him. You could make the case he was a Super Bowl MVP. Definitely probably shouldn't have won it, but he did win it. And Matthew Stafford, of course, I'm always going to be a Stafford Super Bowl MVP guy in that one, but still, Cooper Kupp, a phenomenal player, great value, and not just what he does on the field, but how he is really a conduit for Coach McVay's culture here. Just look what he's doing with Puka Nacua right now.
I think that you said it well, that, look, he's a Super Bowl MVP. So that the reasons he should be on this list begin and end right there.
Yeah.
You don't give the MVP if you don't win the Super Bowl. They won the Super Bowl in large part because of the performance that he put on. Had they given it to Matthew Stafford, nobody's jumping up and down and stomping their feet. Look, they could have given it to Aaron Donald, and I don't think anybody would be jumping up and down and stamping their feet. But when Cooper Kupp got it, it was like, yeah, okay, cool. I mean, he put on that kind of performance. He's the quintessential pro. He showed up from the moment he was drafted out of Eastern Washington and was an impact guy, and really has been an impact guy his entire career, arguably until maybe last year, where he slowed down a little bit. We're waiting to see whether that's age, whether that's injury. I think this upcoming season will give us a little bit more insight to that. But you would draft him 100 times out of 100. And, every general manager in the NFL looking back at that whiffed on him not once, not twice, but maybe even 3 times. It was a tremendous pick.
No doubt about it. Then, of course, number one has to be Aaron Donald, the 13th overall pick in 2014. He's tied with Lawrence Taylor and Watt for guys that have won 3 Defensive Players of the Year. I mean, I think for me, the conversation is he the best Ram of all time. I mean, you got Deacon Jones, Eric Dickerson, some of those guys, but what he has over them is a Super Bowl trophy.
Yeah. Well, and what he has is he's in the discussion for greatest player ever at his position. As great as Kurt Warner is, he's not in that discussion. Marshall Faulk might be, right? Marshall Faulk's at least in the ballpark there. Orlando Pace, is another guy who's in the discussion, greatest left tackles of all time. His name's coming up. He's certainly in that group. But Donald isn't in the group. He is the group. Right. And you're talking about greatest defensive players of all time. You mentioned it. It's Lawrence Taylor. It's Reggie White. Maybe you want to throw in Ronnie Lott or something like that. But if you don't say Aaron Donald's name in the first 3 or 4 names, you did it wrong. And I think that he's exactly what you want. He played every day. He played with ferocity and intensity that you really don't see very often. He was a great leader, maybe not a vocal leader, but certainly a leader by example. And, you got one of the greatest players of all time in the first round, and that's every general manager's dream.
Yeah, someone who's arguably the best player ever at his position, best player on his side of the ball. I mean, stopping P. Ryan there in the Super Bowl, icing the Super Bowl by pressuring Joe Burrow, pressuring Garoppolo in the NFC Championship game. I mean, just a generational run for Donald. So Les Snead can be the Rams GM for the next 30 years. He's probably never going to top that pick of Aaron Donald there, but hopefully he picks up a couple guys that are able to crack this list. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And you can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, at Travis Rogers. And until next time, whose house is Locked On Rams house?